lot of people here today. Yes, we did 35 for the quorum, and I can certify that that has been done. And as far as the proxies that we received for voting on the reserves, that has met the quorum for the partial funding as well. So, that's my part.
And if any of you want to take a look at who voted for what, all of them are listed up there on the counter, so we don't have to read out all 52 units. Proof. Do what? Okay. And we can go ahead and post it online as well if anyone online wants to see who voted for what. The proof of the notice for the annual meeting was posted. The reading and disposal of the unapproved minutes from last year reviewed and approved. Jill, do you agree with that?
Yes.
From last year, and Fred? Scott, what about you? You're online there to approve of last year's annual minutes? Okay.
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. So unfinished business, we've had a couple of items that have been lingering, one being storage room doors. The best quote that we received so far on the storage room doors is over $6,000 a unit to replace the storage room doors, which in my opinion is ridiculous. Yeah, the storage room doors. For the 3-bedroom units, it's a single door, and for the 2-bedroom units, it's a double door, and your washer and dryer are located out there in the storage rooms. I don't know about every floor, but on my floor, every one of the storage room doors are vented, which under the new fire code, those doors are not allowed to be vented. So all the 2-bedroom units have their washers and dryers inside of those doors, which people prefer to have ventilation that allows their dryer to run more efficiently. So we are trying to find better options than paying $6,000 to install a metal or fiberglass door, when that's as much as a window costs. And we'll talk about that too next door. It's about $6,000 a window. So we've talked to the fire marshal. We're good. The doors aren't even required to be installed until next year. And the fire marshal had told us that since we've already done every other item according to the ELSS certification, except the storage room doors, that we could actually install 5 to 6 of them a year, as long as we had, some sort of format that we were going to be implementing and do it over a period of time. So it's not that we don't have the money to do it; it's that I don't think it's a good use of our money to pay $6,000 to install a storage room doors. So I'm following what other condos are doing, what next door is doing, because they're in a similar situation too. As far as I know, they don't have storage room doors replaced either. So with that being said, it's kind of one of those things that we're kind of just, putting a feather in it and waiting to see if a better option comes along. And again, we have until the end of the year to even get it started if we want, and the fire marshal even agreed we can do 4 or 5 a year until we get them completed, because we've done all the other major things according to the ELSS requirement. So with that being said, we have a window issue. The windows have been delaminating for a long time. So if you're out on the beach and you look up at the building, you can see some of the units have severe delamination, some of the units not so bad. Some of the units have some leakage. We've actually been replacing the gaskets for those windows, and as far as I know, that's been successful. Kind of like a temporary fix until we decide which direction we're going to go with the window replacement. The window replacement project is over $1 million. So we looked at what they did next door, taking out the knee wall. We talked about this last year. There were 2 options: take out the knee wall, then no one could have storm shutters because the glass is basically stacked on top of each other all the way down the building, so there'd be nowhere really for a storm shutter to go there. The people that have it now, because it lowers down basically over to where the knee wall is. And the other thing was having our knee walls looked at by a structural engineer to make sure we don't have any water intrusion. So as you know, we did that in my unit as the guinea pig. They drilled into my knee wall. We basically left it open for a full 12 months to make sure there was no water intrusion. I did have a failure on my window, but US Glass actually replaced my window as a sample, because if you go to the south end of the unit and you look at Jill's, 106 is one way, Terry's 206 is one of the second option, and 306 right above that is the third option. So, when we're looking at window options, and I've seen, quite a few of you go out there to the southeast corner of the property and look, you can kind of compare to see what all 3 windows look like. So, again, with US Glass, we did not pay anything out of pocket for that glass to be installed in my unit. My unit window actually had failed back 5 years ago. I actually had notified the board before I ran for the board about my window failing, because I didn't want it to ever look like a conflict of interest if my window got replaced while I was on the board, because it had failed before I even ran for the board. So with that being said, we have the Sears study which includes the windows being replaced as well. So that took a while. We do have, some pushback behind the scenes. There's always, a few eager owners that like to help. Sometimes it's counterproductive to what we're doing. But with that being said, we did get the Sears report. We had to come up with a life expectancy of certain items within the building and then determine how much money needs to be set aside to pay for those items when their life expires. So with that being said, it's only setting aside that money if something has a 20-year life and it expires on the 20th year. So sometimes things fail sooner, sometimes things fail later, but the study requires you to fund it based on its typical life expectancy. All of these rules have been changing. So with that being said, the Sears report, the funding is not required to be in the bank anymore. You can actually have a line of credit open for that money to pull from instead of assessing all of the owners and putting that money into the bank, which that wasn't an option in the very beginning. So as time passes, more options become available. So like the ELSS, they started that over 5 years ago here. And that's one of the reasons I ran for the board, because I didn't like the way money was being spent. So I decided to run for the board with a handful of other people, and I've been on the board now for just going on my 6th year. So a lot's changed throughout these years. But with that being said, when it comes to spending money, the ELSS certification isn't required until 2027. So day one of the ELSS certification, we're gonna have equipment that's 7 years old on day one. So talking to Fred's been invaluable. He's owned here a very long time. He's always a guy I go to for advice. He helps me through a lot of these issues. But he's like, Derek, especially when it comes to the government, you never want to be the first one to do it. They're always changing the rules and moving the goalpost. So if you're the first one to do it, and they move the goalpost back 6 years, the day it's come time, your equipment's 6 years old. So now you're gonna have to replace your equipment 6 years sooner. And look at the whole TV market. When you guys bought plasma TVs back in the 2000s, a 50-inch TV was $3,000. Now they're $500. Because as time passes, things get more efficient and less expensive. So, being on the forefront of jumping through every hoop that the county comes out with and being the first one in Volusia County to do it, in my opinion, is not in our best interest. Because as time passes and every other building has to put in fire-rated doors in their storage rooms where I keep my pool chairs, for it to be a $6,000 expense, in my opinion, is a ridiculous way to spend all of the money we have in the bank right now, $300,000. So,
What about an assessment? You can have an assessment.
We can have an assessment, absolutely. And for the last 5 years, we haven't had to have an assessment. And that's one of the reasons I ran for the board too, is because 3 years prior to that, we had 2 assessments in 3 years. And I see Terry nodding her head. That was one of the reasons I ran. I did not feel that if we spent our money wisely, we would need to keep assessing the owners every 2 to 3 years. And for the last 5 years, we hadn't had to do it. Now, you might not agree with everything I do. You have the ability to run for the board yourself. There were 4 openings for the board this year. 4. Nobody ran. So you must secretly like what we're doing, because nobody ran against us. And it's not even ran against us. I don't even have the option to stay on if someone put their name in. I can't run against them. I would automatically be removed. And I know a lot of owners knew that, and they actually approached me and said, hey, Derek, we're willing to run for the board if you need us. Let us know at the last minute. I'd rather not do it because I see the headaches you go through. And I know some of you in the room have offered to do that. And we didn't. No one else ran. I know Scott Kirby, for example, he doesn't want to do it anymore. He was the treasurer the last 2 years as a favor to the board. He had no intention of ever being on the board. He called that his happy bridge coming over Dunlop when he got here, because he didn't want to deal with anything other than being on the beach and laying in the sun. He said, Derek, being on the board has taken the fun out of being in that building. I'm not doing it anymore. I put in the 2 years, someone else can step up. I said, thanks for your service, Scott, we appreciate it. I know where you're coming from. I'm good friends with Scott Kirby. So I want to reach out to Scott and tell him again, thank you. It was a very difficult job he had of being the treasurer for the last 2 years. And again, this is the first time since I've owned in the building in almost 10 years that the dues have remained the same for 3 years in a row with no assessments. I don't know of another building up and down this strip that can say that. And we all went through the same hurricane they did, and we all went through a lot of damage just like they did, but it's how you manage your money. You can have 2 people that make $100 grand a year, one person's broke and the other person's a millionaire. How'd you do it? Well, it's how you manage your money. So, if anyone wants things to be done differently, you have the opportunity to do it, run for the board. So I've spoken to a lot of you I know behind the scenes, and I'm looking at them all right now, that don't want to be on the board. They're happy with what we're doing, and they can't believe the abuse we take. Jill couldn't believe it. She's like, Derek, had I known that's how you're treated being on the board, I never would offer to help you. I was like, Jill, lucky you live here. Because there's, a handful of people that can really make things uncomfortable for you. And you get to see them just a couple times. So, it can be very strenuous, and we do our best. And we're not always right with every decision we make. But fiduciary responsibility is our number one priority, and I don't think you've seen any money in this building ever being wasted. So, when it comes to new business, the voting on reserves, we've been partial funded ever since I've owned here. Now, there's always been a handful of owners that vote fully funded. I don't understand why, because fully funded really doesn't mean you'll never get assessed. Fully funded only means that everything breaks when it's actually supposed to break, you'll have the money to replace it. If anything breaks early, you're still gonna get an assessment. You have some people that want to assess. Sam brought up an assessment. I don't agree with doing assessments if we have the money. Now, we could get everything done this year. Everything. We could get the doors done, we could get the windows done, get out your checkbook, and it'd be $30,000 or $40,000 a person. And we can get everything done this year. I don't think we need to do it. So, that's
If you
why.
let stuff build up there,
What's
the building's gonna be
Sam.
painted, the balcony's gonna be done, you're gonna have doors, you're gonna have.
There's no
all kinds of
deferred
stuff.
maintenance,
You're
Sam.
just deferring everything.
Sam, I understand you're passionate about this. You were part of the outside for the last 2 years. This was never an issue. It's ever since that you resigned from the board it's become an issue.
Derek, I was working on getting the doors done last December.
Correct. And what was the quote that you got? The $6,000 quote a door, right?
No,
What?
the doors that I was trying to get, turned out they didn't have the proper fire rating.
Correct. So what I'm saying
But I
that,
had another quote for metal doors.
yeah, and metal rusts, and we discussed it. So that's why we didn't do it. So it's not that I don't
The
want to do
doors
it.
need to be replaced.
They do, but do I want to replace the doors with metal doors that are gonna rust? I don't. Do you? Do you?
No.
No.
The windows, but the doors need to be replaced. They look like they're awful.
They
They
are
look
awful,
terrible.
but
So we're just gonna live with awful looking
All
doors
right,
forever?
guys, let's get back under control here. If we want to put together a committee, and Joe, you're welcome, I see you're passionate too. If you want to, like Sam did, Sam tried his best to get a door option, and I was on board with it. We didn't come up with one that was a good option. It was the best option that we found so far, but to pay $6,000 for metal doors that are gonna rust, look at our garage doors out there from the dumpsters that are already rusted, and those were 10 grand a piece. I don't think that's a good use of our money. So, again, you're welcome to run for the board, remove me, and spend the $6,000 for metal doors to put in the hallways out on the beach that are gonna rust. I don't think that's a good use of the money.
Are we saying that there's no fiberglass doors available? Because we just left the meeting next door where they told us that they do have a quote. Now, I haven't seen the quote.
Right.
For $700,000, sister building right next door, they're very
700,000,
similar, 700,000 divided by 75 units. So
Mhm.
that's
So it's
what.
10 grand a
what
door.
So that's what
Yeah, for
their
fiberglass doors.
quote
In
is.
my opinion,
And they also
Uh-huh.
told us that this has to get done in 2026.
I know, and I told you the same thing.
So, well, this is 2026.
It is.
I thought you just said 2027.
No, I said as long as we've already spoken to the fire marshal, as long as we get started, we can do 5 to 10 or whatever doors we want every year. So they do not need to be completed by 2027. We have to just get started. You have to have your permit pulled.
Do you have any paperwork showing that?
No?
Because everything I looked up says, you're supposed to have your permit right now.
By the end of this year is what I
Completed
read.
by the end of the year,
Yeah,
that's what I
correct,
read.
correct.
Sam,
So-
that's for the fire safety.
Okay,
That's for the
okay.
sprinklers and the
Show
alarm
me where,
systems.
show me where.
Okay, I'll have Lieutenant Benners.
Okay, we've spoken to the fire marshal, and that's the one who's basically over the whole thing. And believe me, when I first got on the board, I didn't see eye to eye with Lieutenant Netters. I thought the whole ELSS thing was a scam. Because if we're outdoors, our hallways, when you walk out your front door, you can get wet if it is pouring rain. In my opinion, that is not an interior hallway that you could be trapped due to smoke.
Didn't we later find out that it isn't?
We would have had to go fight it. And I was willing to do it because of the expense, but it had already been started, and the determination was that we've already spent $300,000 to now put a cork in it and not complete the process would have been a waste of $300,000. So we're just gonna see it through to the end because we're almost at the finish line. So, not that they did anything wrong, but it's hard when you're the first person in the county to jump on board and do something, and then they keep moving the goalpost on you. It's like, now, we were one of the first people to start construction. Ron knows, go ahead, Ron.
I was gonna say, Derek, the reason the board
at that time, and there's some board members here that share with me, was we wanted a safe building.
Sure.
And that was why we went ahead with a number of the things we did. And you're right, the goalpost did change. And we did fight the idea of, we're not an enclosed corridor out there. We would have had to go over to, I guess, the state capitol to try to make our case to the people that make these rules. But you're right, the rules did change as we went along. But we wanted to get started, not to be first out of the gate, but we just wanted to ensure that we had a safe building for everyone. And that's what we felt we were doing. Now with the doors, yeah, we left those for the boards that were gonna come after us and make those decisions.
Sure.
We did have some quotes, and that was 5-6 years ago now, so obviously cheaper. But, again, the regulations regarding those doors have changed.
Yeah.
So you're right, things do keep changing. The other thing, when we painted the building, we did assessments. We did that because we felt that would make the building safer, better for everyone. And when we spent the money, with the approval, I mean, you can't just make an assessment, everyone has to agree to it, that we were able then to get these things done, so that, yeah, for these last few years, we don't have to assess. You don't have to redo the building, you don't have to do the garage doors, you don't have to do the pool, you don't have to do the seawall. Those were all done, Fred knows that. So I'm just saying, put it in that perspective.
No, I
I'm
agree with you.
disagreeing with you, I'm just saying.
No, I agree with you, absolutely.
Yeah, are the only options for those doors fiberglass or metal? That's the only two options?
No, and it's a can of worms. So the problem is it has to be a 20-minute fire-rated door. You know. However, the doors cannot, they have to all be self-closed. So you can't prop them open while you're doing your laundry. They can't be ventilated because if a fire were to break out inside of the storage room, it can't get oxygen from the outside to feed the fire on the inside. So, and then when you have the double doors, you can see now when one door closes, the other door closes and there's a seam over it, in the double door. Well, a fire-rated double door doesn't have that seam over it because that allows oxygen kind of to get in between those two doors. So they have to be a sealed double door. So the 2-bedroom units are the expensive units because they're the ones that have the double doors. And they're also the ones that have their washer and dryer inside. So it's not that I don't want to do it, but when I look at the options available, and I say $6,000 for a metal one, and we can go ahead and knock this out right now, I don't think that's a good use of our money. If I'm wrong, you guys are welcome to overrule me. I mean, I'm not here as, it's not a dictatorship, but I talk to a lot of you owners. I know you don't agree, Sam, but I talk to a lot of you owners in here. I see Mike, I talk to Mike, I talk to Ron quite a bit behind the scenes for help. Same with Fred. I mean, a lot of people know what's going on behind the scenes, but it's just an exhausting process of getting things done. Sam, you know how exhausting it is to get things done.
Looks at the buildings, a lot, you walk down the hall, a lot of those vents you're talking about are falling apart.
They are.
And it looks really nice.
No, it doesn't look nice.
Well, I mean, you want to save a nickel,
No, I don't want to save a nickel. I want to save $6,000 on a metal door that's going to rust.
you're gonna eventually have to do it anyway. And
Well,
this
I'm hoping it's not going to be a metal
Gonna
door.
draw it out, I don't know that it's gonna let you buy with that, but 5 at a time, they ain't gonna do it construction for the next 10 years.
No, they do kind of one floor at a time. We did it with the carpet when they were doing the installation. Ron knows. I
Yeah,
mean,
if you're talking about that, you're talking about you're gonna do 5 this year and 5 2 years from now.
Well,
So
no,
if you
I mean,
go
I think
do
you
them-
kind of misunderstood what I meant. I meant is you could do them over a period of time. So you could start on the 10th floor and work their way down, just
Oh,
like.
yeah, that's what you'd have to do it.
That's what I wanted, yeah. So, I mean, so we're not doing it all
Or,
at once.
we could start on the second floor and work our way up.
You can do anything you want.
Or maybe the third.
I didn't understand it, I thought he was gonna buy, put in 5 doors and wait.
No.
I
6
did
months,
too.
put in 5
The
more.
vents look terrible, but the doors they don't look the best. But his point is, do we want to spend all that money at this exact moment in time when we don't have to?
You don't have to, but you gotta do it someday, so we're gonna wait 20 years to do it?
No, I don't think what
They'll
we're not
be good
doing
for
is
20
we can't
years,
wait-
you put
we
the
can't
doors
wait
in, they'll
20.
be good for another 40 years.
We can't wait, because we don't.
So why not just do
the
it and be
city
done
says
with
we
it?
can't.
So,
We talked
it's
about it.
like there's heartburn over the metal doors, but what is the fiberglass door quote? Do we have that?
Not that was any less expensive, so no.
Sam, you researched the fiberglass door, we talked about it, how much were those doors?
Well, the doors that I was working on weren't the right doors. They told me they were fire rated, and the paperwork says they're fire rated, but they don't come with the placard on saying that they're fire rated.
So they can't.
So those doors were what, 250,000 or something?
Yeah, and that's the, and
know
last
they were way
year,
cheaper.
we were set, cause Sam had this all
And
knocked
they're good
out.
doors, yeah.
And they basically
They
bait
just don't
switched
come
them.
with it.
But we can't,
We can't use them,
yeah, I get you.
We replaced our front door,
Mhm.
cause it cracked, and we had to get the fire rated door,
Mhm.
they had to order from California, it's got the placard on it, you know, and it was like $3,000, have it installed and
Sure.
everything. Now, there's a lot of front doors that haven't been replaced, so are we grandfathered in for front doors and those doors?
No.
Just front doors, why are front doors not having to be replaced?
Again,
That's
it's,
a question I have as well about front doors.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
so
it's a
we
big-
have to change the doors, we can't, we're not grandfathered in to keep those doors in the hall. Because why can't we take them down and refinish them? I mean,
so the problem we're running into, and guys, it's like a Pandora's box. A lot of people have replaced their own front doors when they remodeled their unit. They put glass inserts on the sides.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Well, some people did.
I did. Yeah.
Well, the fire marshal, and Ron's shaking his head back there, the fire marshal basically has said, you can't have glass on the side of those doors. So all of those doors that people have put in are gonna have to be pulled out and replaced with solid core doors. What? So it is just one of these things, and the rules keep changing. So do I wanna tell Mike Williams that just paid $5,000 or so to have his front door replaced, and it looks great, to say, no, according to the fire marshal, we gotta replace that with a solid core door, Mike, and it's gonna cost us $3,000 to take out your $5,000 door to put in a crap door. And then, after he does that, at the end of the year, go, you know what, Mike, they actually did away with that whole program, we never had to do it. Why would I wanna do that? I mean, Mike knows, he runs a big business, you never wanna be the first one out of the gate when they come out with a new law. Because the laws always get pushed back, postponed, and changed. So as more and more buildings have to do these storage room doors, they're gonna have more and more options available. Because the
We have to
demand
do
is
it.
gonna
They're not
increase.
grandfathered in.
There's no grandfathering in when it comes to the fire system, the
Okay. But
ELSS.
they're not saying anything about the front doors. That
Not
doesn't
yet.
make sense.
You probably could,
It's not in the ELS.
no, it should be.
It should be, but it's.
I'd rather have my front door safe than my storage room door.
The birds go.
Short
So we're fully sprinkled. It's
$206,000 for all the front
typical
doors.
government nonsense.
It's $6,000.
No fire's gonna get out of your unit.
It's a concrete
Front
building.
door.
Yeah, and no fire's gonna leave your unit, you have sprinklers.
You know,
Well, I thought there was some grandfathering in it.
it's,
Before we
it's,
done.
you know, and that's the whole thing. So by the time it's all said and done, you know, this ELSS project is probably gonna be pushing upwards of almost $1 million. Which, will it make the building safer? Absolutely. Could we have made the building safer spending less money and doing it our own way and not doing it under this whole ELSS requirement? You'll never know, you know? So what we have to do is we have to deal, you know, play the deck we're dealt and make the best of it. So are people all gonna say to do things differently? Maybe. But that's why we vote on things and we have to agree, and there's always gonna be people that don't agree with what we did, but they're welcome to do things different, you know? We're not self-appointed up here, you know?
Present a bid for those doors and we'll vote.
Which ones?
What did we find?
The
A
last
$7,000 steel door, I think that would be silly.
Me too.
They don't last.
Right.
They look like shit in a couple of years.
That's,
My door's fiberglass, I think.
I know, I want to use
absolutely.
fiberglass. That's what we want to use.
And
That's what we want to use. The steel doors right now, we have in front of the dumpster cans, the ones that are rusting out there.
Yeah,
And that's only been, what, the last 5, 6 years?
right.
So,
And we paid a fortune for it.
$418,000 is
Yeah, we're
that
gonna have
fiberglass door?
metal around the windows.
So it sounds like we have a quote.
well, yeah, we have a quote, we just weren't happy with the quote.
Are the windows coming?
So, you know, I don't, but again, yeah, we have a quote of this. I think, like you said, next door, they got a quote $7,000 a unit is what it basically breaks out here for storage room doors, right? Isn't that what
It
you
was
just said?
700,000 was the number they threw out, and there's 75 units.
Yeah, so about 10,000.
Almost
10,000
$10 grand a door.
So 10 grand a door for a storage room door. So, I mean, guys, if you want, it would make my life easier to just write a check for $10,000, say storage room door's done, passed. If you guys all wanna do that, we'll take it right off the table and then write a check for $10,000. But now we got windows, which are gonna be $30,000 a unit, depending on how we spend our money. And you have some owners behind the scenes making it very difficult for us. So we're doing our best to try to make it through this process, guys, but it doesn't help when people are being counterproductive behind us, contacting the engineer, threatening to sue people that did our reserve study. to try to get things added. It's like, I just don't understand it, but we deal with it. So when it comes to the windows, guys, we have to put a committee together. I don't even want to be on the committee. They can go around to each unit and determine from worst case scenario to best case scenario what windows need to be replaced in the building, and we'll prioritize them based on necessity, and we can start writing checks and getting that done. It's not a Derek issue that I don't want to replace Mike's window or Sam's window. I could care less, but I want our money to be spent wisely. I had a 4-inch crack in one of my window panes for 6 years. It never got any bigger. It happened when they were renovating the building. I thought one of the chippers, when they were painting and cutting it around the window, cracked my window. But they're double pane windows. One of them had a little spider crack in it. The window leaked anyway, but I just got my window replaced last year. So it's finally done. But I'm saying there are some windows that need to be replaced. But what we need to do is prioritize which windows need to be replaced and then come up with a game plan of getting them done. Because bringing out all the staging equipment and swing arms, US Glass does not want to do, I'm just randomly talking units, 1004, 201, 506, they want to say, okay, we're going to start on stack A, and we're going to set up the crane and the lifts, and we're going to drop down and do one window at a time there. And then I know people get upset, they have renters, because guys, it makes a mess in your unit, and with weather, just like when they redid the pool, Ron knows, they didn't want to redo the pool in the middle of the summertime, but that's what ended up happening, not because they wanted to, because that's what ended up happening. And then owners are having to rebate rent back to their tenants because they rented here in the summer and there's no pool available, or there was no stairs available. Guys, we've been through it all. So we're trying to make the best we can with the best use of your money that you've worked hard for. And I feel I've worked hard for it too. Yeah, Ron?
I was gonna say, we went through this with the balcony doors. Started off, some were failing and so forth. It's similar to the windows now, because they're both team who built them. But we talked about, well, maybe we should look at the worst doors and so forth. Then it was, well, maybe we should only do a portion of the doors. And people finally said, look, if we're gonna make a mess, let's just make a mess. And do the doors, you can either do it by stack this way, vertically, or do it by floor. But do them all, and let's just have the mess for 6 months, similar to, unfortunately, when we did the garage or when we did the building itself. So, I would suggest, if you want to do a vertical stack, start wherever. If you want to do a floor, but to try and choose individual
But
windows.
it's hard on, because on the backside you have owners, and some of them are in this room. They feel their windows are perfect and they don't want their unit touched. And they've recently renovated their unit and they feel like it would be a waste of money replacing their doors and windows. Yes, ma'am?
What year or span of years were the windows last replaced?
Oh, I don't know, you'd have to look in the reserve study. I think,
207, 208.
yeah, about
Not
that.
in the reserve.
2006.
They did an amendment, they
I think
updated
it was
it,
after
like,
Hurricane Charlie.
So who gave you your
That was
glass?
like
Who
stuff
gave you your
aside,
money?
probably
US Glass?
Hurricanes were
So they give you your
2004,
money?
now that one.
yeah.
We're not gonna bid the windows, what's in it for them?
They actually are the ones that did your building next door.
I understand that, but
They're
we're not
just-
gonna bid it out?
they're
We
just
bid
betting
it
on
to get it?
No,
What's in it for them?
so,
They're
I'm sure-
gambling that we'll give them their business if people.
yeah, so
I know it, but you're giving them an open check, you ain't gonna bid it out.
no, we actually already did bid it out, just like,
Well, so
Guys,
they just gambling, they gonna be low bidder.
yeah, pretty much. They were actually already the low bid.
Yeah.
What happened was, and I thought we talked about it, but next door went through the whole bidding process. Our buildings are very
Well, I
similar.
understand next door
Okay.
is.
Okay, well, we piggyback a lot off each other, just like you're referring the prices they're paying for their doors on that. That's what they paid, so that's what, maybe we should pay the plaster guy, this is what they paid to refinish theirs. Our units are very similar. So when they quoted their per unit windows next door, we actually got our own vendors to quote our per unit doors too, and US Glass came in cheapest next door. They came in cheapest here too. With that being said, we were looking at a single panel glass option that they couldn't do next door because they took out the knee wall. Taking out the knee wall made the opening too big for a single pane of glass. It wouldn't meet the hurricane code. However, if the knee wall was still there, the pane of glass would be smaller and you could go with a single pane glass, or it's actually dual pane, but one panel, single panel of glass. And they said, we can actually put one in your unit, Derek, as a sample because we think it would look better. I said, well, how much is that gonna cost? They said, well, we are the lowest bid because we've already met with the vendors. He said, so I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and front that cost and put it in on our dime, because we basically know we're the cheapest vendor for the two buildings anyway, and most likely you're gonna use us, so we'll go ahead and take that gamble and put it in. Ron knew they were doing it, Sam knew they were doing it, Sam was up in my unit when they put it in. So that was done last year. So that's why they did it. And so they did it for free. And we left the window all, open for the last year, so that's why they did it. And a lot of times in sales, you give something to a client hoping you'll do business with them. I mean, I've done that, I'm sure. It's normal. But yeah. So
What if we
that's why.
choose a different one and not that one?
You don't have to, that's just one of the three options. We have three choices on that side of the building.
So if everybody voted on something that's not yours, would you have to take yours out
I would, sure.
to match the?
Absolutely.
Because, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have the unicorn window in the building. So yeah.
They just take it out.
Yeah. Yeah, so, of course, yeah, my unit will eventually match everyone else's. So it was just a sample they put in my unit, as simple as it was.
So what was the window quote?
Yeah, well,
Here,
Yeah,
well, it all depends on what windows we're gonna get replaced. So, I'll have to pull up the whole quote, but eventually, we were originally looking at the angled, what do you call it, the windows on the 45-degree. We weren't looking at the fixed windows that are on the inside of your balcony, because those don't open or close. I don't know the 2 bedrooms, I have a 3-bedroom, but. So Ron knows what I'm talking about. What do you call that, the 2-bedroom? The ones that are on the angle, not your fixed windows.
the one in the bedroom.
Yes, your bedroom one.
Your bedroom.
The tilt
Yeah, our
windows.
dining
It's in
room.
our mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say your bedroom and your.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the split bar windows.
Yes, the problem with.
They're split with a bar.
One of the bedroom and one of the living room and 2 bedroom.
The 2-bedroom, they're the kind of open.
Yeah, I wanna say it came out to approximately, and I'll pull it, I mean, it's all online, but it came out to approximately $6,000 a window. So you do 3 windows, it's $18,000. You do 1 window, it's 6. And then you just multiply it by how many windows you're doing. And that's just the east side windows. We did not quote, we have a quote, but we didn't anticipate having to replace the windows on the west side in the hallways because those weren't leaking. So that's what they did next door, and that's what we did here. So, like I said, we do some of the stuff they do next door, but we're just, don't do it all. But, they did it, and then people have said, well, Derek, if they're at their life expectancy, we probably are too. I'm like, you know what, Angela, let's go ahead and get the quote. Sam was around back then. Let's go ahead and get the quotes so we have the numbers and we know what we're dealing with when that time comes. So that's where we're at. Do we want to replace all the windows at once? That's up to you guys. We don't make that decision.
How did the vote come back on
Which
whether it
one?
was first floor, second floor, third floor?
I think like 10 people maybe replied.
We had a total of 15 people, 2 people voted for the double and the rest voted for the single.
Yes, Ron.
Yeah, I think, besides just the delamination, what I said earlier, those are teen windows, those are the ones we put in, I'm gonna guess 207, whatever. The problem is that the fasteners and so forth, we can no longer get those, we must be running pretty low now.
We are very-
We are.
So if a window falls in, which it could,
Yeah.
because the door did, that's why we did the door. So I'm just saying, it's more to it than just the look.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm
So,
not saying that, absolutely. The delamination is what you can see
yes.
from the pool deck. So, that's why I think, and it's up to, the owners here, like I said, is to go up and you can actually, open and close or determine how many of them are actually ready to be replaced at this time. Is it a majority? Then get them all done. If it's 10, I'd hate to replace 52 units with the windows when only 10 needed to be replaced. So you kind of got to look at the trade-off there. Because, anyone that has remodeled their unit, your floors are not going to butt up to where the new window is going. Because when they remove the drywall and the sheetrock to replace the window, and they now use a stucco that can get wet and dry so you don't have any bubbling on the inside if you were to have water intrusion, you have about 1.5 inch gap at the end of your flooring to where the new window and stucco finish is. So, if you put in hardwood floors or if you put in tile, just know you're gonna have about 1 inch to fill. And I think that happened back when you guys replaced the sliders.
I was gonna say, if you look at your slider,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a little gap of probably that much of some other tile.
Yeah.
Because
So-
obviously I couldn't match it.
Yeah.
Yes, you're quite right,
Yeah, so, I
that's
mean-
gonna be a problem.
So again, that's one of the things we're gonna wanna, in my opinion, it's such a big project, put together a committee, so you don't think it's partial, it's not the board that decided not to replace the windows. Any homeowner that wants to participate is welcome to do it, and then, at the end, we look at the facts, and then we send out a vote and make a decision. you know?
Well, I'm saying, keep kicking everything down the road, we got the doors we gotta change, we got the windows that's gonna need to change, the building needs to be painted. All that's coming about.
Along with the
Everybody willing to
balconies.
do some of it.
Well, we
The
just painted the
balconies,
building. We just painted the building.
the balconies, I was told they was in worse shape than the ones next door and they replaced them 20 years ago.
I've been told a lot of things
Yeah,
too.
right, that's what I'm saying, that may not be true.
So, no, so we had an engineer.
That's coming sooner or later.
Yeah, so we
Keep
had an
kicking
engineer
all
come
this
out.
down the road, there's gonna be an assessment somewhere along the line.
Well,
Is
not
there a written
necessarily. So-
report from the engineer on the balconies?
That was done back when Ron was on board, yeah, all that's
Okay.
already been done.
How long ago is that?
Well, that would have been.
7 years ago?
5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the verdict on the balconies at that time?
Well, basically what we were talking about was more the cathodics and whether they were working in, whether we should strip the balconies down and repaint and so forth. But the structure of the balconies was never under question. That, I know what you're saying about the shores, yes, they replaced all of their balconies, I can't remember how many years ago. But that the structure of our balconies has not been in discussion. It's the surface of the things.
Yeah, that's
As everybody knows, we've tried a million different things, so that's basically, there were two reports, one suggesting one thing, one the other. Both were costly. And the successor board decided, and I would have too, just to put that down the line. But the reports are, I believe, Angela, you must have them somewhere.
Which ones, though, on the
Just now?
balconies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're on the website. It's a
What are
big
they
thing.
listed on the website? I tried to find that.
It should be under documents,
We'll look, and if it's not, I think I have a copy of the report up in my, they did it under Keystone Engineering did it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was all done.
it's
So-
the one Robert's been working off of too.
Yeah, we went off their report, I don't know if you guys remember, they came around with a big stick with a chain on the end and dragged it over every balcony looking for hollow spots, and then they came out with a diagram and actually drew where those spots were, Ron remembers. So, guys, honestly, if you compare us to other buildings, we're very fortunate to have a full-time maintenance guy here, we do year-round maintenance. And anyone that lives here can see it, I know Terry and Mike, and you know, they're living here full-time parts of the year, I guess you could call it. I mean, you see everything ongoing of paint, stucco, you know, just little things to kind of keep this building, looking good. I mean, you go to other buildings and I know several people that live in other condos that come visit ours, they're very impressed with the condition of our building. Especially, I mean, look next door and look on the north and south. You look at their pool decks, you look at their pavers don't match. You look next door on the north side, their pavers don't match. You look at ours, our pavers match. Do you know why? It's because people like myself and Mike Williams right there, when our pavers collapsed, we actually went out there and hand picked them up and stacked them so they would not come in and demo them when they rebuilt the pool deck from caving in. So we were able to save our pavers to reuse so our pool deck looks uniform all the way across. When you look on the north and south properties, they weren't able to salvage all of their pavers because they came in with shovels and pickaxes and everything else and were destroyed their pavers when they were pulling them up. We picked ours up by hand. So, you know, Mike couldn't walk for a week after he did that from his back.
2 months.
2 months. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we do around here that I know a lot of you don't see. But I live here full time and I do everything I can to make this building as nice as possible. And I know with Sam's help, I mean, we redid this club room. Some people didn't even notice it. Redid the gym floor, redid Angela's office. We redid the library floor. So all of these little things that we continue to do, you see the cabinets are all been painted. All of these things that we've done have been without any assessments. It's just been done with the money that we set aside every month for the building maintenance. And a lot of other buildings are outsourcing all of these things. We're doing them internally. Robert's capable of doing a lot of things. Now, he's a one-man show, so it might take him a long time to get it done. But as long as it's an acceptable amount of time, we let Robert do it because it saves us a lot of money. So again, that's just the way I've always done it, is like Fred said, Derek, you know, you spend the HOA money like it's your own. I don't see that very often. He told me that today, you know? So I do spend the money like Fred said, very, very slowly, because I want to make sure I'm spending it right. Because I have to see all of you in the hallway every day. I live here. I don't want to waste money and then I move 6 months, you know, up north and I'll see y'all next year. No, I'm here every day. My wife's here, my son's here. So, you know, we do our best to maintain the property the best we can.
What's
So-
going on with the pool? It's really dirty the last few days.
I don't know, maybe it's the wind pushing the sand in. Robert?
No, it's got like big chunks of, when you look down, it's like somebody's, I don't know, it's bad.
Well, I'll take a look, first I heard about it, but I'll be happy to take a look, so we'll take care of
So
that.
Mayor, do you want volunteers to be on the building committee?
Yeah, we'll send out an email, because there's a lot more people than that are just in this room that might want to participate. I know some people weren't able to make it today that are wanting to help. But yeah, so we'll send out for, the windows, is probably the biggest ticket item there, to do a committee on that. And then everything moving forward, that's a big ticket item. I think a committee is best, because then the board's out of that decision. The owners make the decisions, all we do is implement it.
Maybe the committee could look at everything and say, here's priority 1, here's priority 2, here's priority 3.
Terry, you are now head of this committee.
Oh, yeah, she was having one really one
That sounded
time.
like Terry volunteered.
That was not a volunteer, that was just, maybe we could get a.
Yeah, hey, Bill.
Are we voting on something today? I have another appointment at 2 o'clock.
No, sir, we're not. This is just the annual meeting, there's gonna be nothing voted on today.
I gotta drop off at 2, but I just wanna say, I think you're doing a great job. I support the board 100%. I think you have the best interest of our condo, get the best condo in the South Shores. And I agree with what you guys are doing 100%. So that would be my opinion.
There you go, I appreciate it.
I want to second that, and I will say that, I don't know how much, Terry and I, we rented in this area for 20 years because we both worked. We bought a place when we retired. We looked at 35, 26, yeah, we had like 35 places to see. We got into like 26 of them, and we bought here. And I think I speak for the vast majority of our tenants. I love the way you run our money. I appreciate what you do. You take untold bullshit, unpaid, and you're doing a great job with our money. And I think the majority of us want to be frugal with our money. We want to take care of the building. We want to do things in a timely manner, but we don't need to do them years before we have to. So, and that's my opinion, and I think it's the opinion of the majority of the people. So thank you for what you're doing.
Appreciate it, Mike.
And, there's always gonna be a handful of people that, they might just not like your face.
I think that's true.
I think that's a lot of it. Yeah, but I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Mike.
Derek,
Yes, sir.
also a big thank you to Angela.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she gets yelled at more than I do.
Yeah.
And pass it on to Robert too. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Robert is a hell of an asset. He can do anything.
he really can,
And if he can't, he knows someone that can.
He does.
Yeah.
And then he'll tell them how to do it.
Yeah. That's a huge asset for us.
Yeah, he's self-taught.
I don't know what we pay him, but it ain't enough.
So was there anything else other than those things that anyone wanted to bring up?
Are you funding the surge account this year or not?
So the answer is, the formal answer is no. What I'm looking at is the amount of money we're supposed to be putting in the Sears account, we actually are putting in our reserve account right now. It's kind of like a test run to make sure we can operate putting that money aside without spending it. So we've already calculated how much is required to be put in the Sears, and that's what we're putting into our reserves. But if you labeled it as a Sears account, we could not pull the money out if we needed it. So right now, we're kind of running a test run for,
Isn't it required though this year? Everything I read said it is.
it got, as far as I know, it got pushed back, the funding of the Sears.
For
Yeah.
20, yeah.
So the reports all have to be done, all the studies have to be done. But the actual funding, and that's what changed too in the last, 6, 8 months, is the way you fund it. You don't even have to fund it like you were talking about, putting the money aside. You can actually have a line of credit at the bank, just being able to draw on that money should you need it.
And they've also changed it too to where everything is pooled. It's, before they said it had to be individual line items. Now everything can be pooled, whether it be in your total reserve or in your source. Both of them can be pooled.
That's a classic example. That's brand new.
Yeah.
They just made that change.
Yeah.
Hey, Derek.
Yes, sir.
Two things.
Sure.
Can we get the code changed at the front door?
Absolutely.
That's been 2 years since that's been changed.
Yeah, and the reason we honestly didn't do it this last year is because we hadn't had any incursions, because what had happened previously is certain owners would yell out the code to someone on the beach or give it to someone that really shouldn't have it. So every year we've always paid, and it's not cheap to have them come out and rekey all the doors. So this year we didn't, or last year we didn't do it, but it's probably his time. So what's your birthday, Mike? When's your birthday?
We do have birthdays.
No, Put 1961.
All right, that would be the code.
You got scofflaws trying to get in here?
Yeah.
61.
Wonderful, I remember that
Yes.
one.
Has anything, have y'all, has the board done anything?
Hold on. Hilton, I'll get you in 1 second. Let me ask Mr. Mike.
All right, a second. Can we get this meeting changed back to the morning? I hate this afternoon.
I hate it too. The reason they changed it,
I know it had so many owners over there, but it's not as many, plus Debbie and they were the manager at both places.
yeah, I'll look into that. I've tried.
I know we got a vote on it.
Yeah, so I would like it changed too, because this afternoon is no good for me either. Hilton, yes, sir.
Has the board done anything about car charges?
We have not.
I don't feel like the members should be paying electric bills for people to charge the cars and that. Now, I understand Kirby voluntarily paid some, I respect him for that.
Sure.
Cause, it's no different, you're not gonna run down and help me put a tank of gas in my car.
Right.
And you were so concerned about the electric bill that we don't run the heater in the pool, but everywhere I look, I said car charge.
Well, let me make a point.
Okay.
The only thing I said about turning the pool heater on was when it was so cold it didn't work, is the only reason we turned the pool heater off. Is when it couldn't heat the pool, it was pointless turning on the pool heater. That's the only point I made about turning off the pool heater. The second thing, when it came to the car charging, the cost of implementing car charging stations or meters into the parking lot because of the way the building is wired with our electrical panel being on this side of the driveway, it was cost prohibitive. So Mike brought it up too. 2 years ago, I think we talked about it. We then compared our utility bills based on years before, and there was no fluctuation in the utility usage. And now we've got, I think, 5 or 6 electric cars around here. And our utility usage has not gone up over the average of what it's gone up over the last few years. So to answer your question, we haven't done anything with it because we haven't seen any sort of price increase on
So
our
they're not
utility
using
bill.
any electricity then?
I didn't say that. I just haven't seen any increases in
Well, you cut the
usage.
pool heater off, so that would offset it.
It probably
I'm sure
does.
that thing you talked about how expensive it was.
It was.
So I'm sure.
It did, and it probably was a wash for that.
I mean,
So
there
our-
should be something addressed, cause you're gonna get so many, and I understand they jump around and y'all know where the 20-amp circuits are at, and that's where you plug up most. But they, but it's not right for
No, they should all
the
be metered.
average homeowner to pay the electric bill.
Right.
You know, if nothing else, y'all don't have to a certain amount a month. Everybody, if you plug up, you should pay.
Right, I agree. I agree with you.
Several other buildings, if you got one, you get an engineer in, he gives you a write-up of how the setup will do it,
Mhm.
and you pay for your own installation, and then you got a meter on it, you pay for what you use.
I'm
And then you
aware.
know it's safe.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Okay.
I
I'm
don't
aware.
see why we continuously just foot the bill.
Right, so what I try to do is prioritize our expenses. And looking at our utility usage year over year with the EVs, and sometimes there's 1 EV, sometimes there's 6.
Right.
When I look at the bills at the end of every month, and I said, you know what, our utility usage actually was the same as it was back last year at this time too. So really, it might look like a lot, but some of those chargers aren't even necessarily charging if they're already charged up. If you have an electric car, you would know it charges up to a certain point and actually turns itself off. But with that being said, that's just not a priority right now of the board. It's not that much of a cost savings.
So we're gonna continue to pay our electric bill.
For right now, yes, sir.
Do they plug into 110s, don't they?
They do.
They plug in 110, you said at the pool amperage that you plugged in.
But it can only pull as much as that
That's the
110
same
will
for that you plug.
More than electrical charger.
Yeah,
If you go on,
compared to the heating unit.
Yeah.
if it's a fully charged, if it's a
No.
fully charged
Yeah.
unit,
It's not.
Those are cheap.
if you
No.
were to install one, it'd be, but still pulling close to 15 amps when it's charged, and that's what the average air conditioner is plus the cooler.
Yeah. So, you know, it's been a talking
I
point.
can't say it ain't pulling in electricity.
I've never said it wasn't. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But when we're looking at all the expenses year over year, and like when Scott was looking at the budget year over year, you don't see our utilities as being spiked due to the EV usage. I think there's more EVs out there right now than there has been all year. So, you know, if next month we look at the utility bill and go, you know what? Philton's right. When we got 6 or 7 cars out there, it makes a big difference.
So y'all feel okay plugging up?
Yes, sir.
Don't bother you a bit.
Why don't we just have a surcharge? If
Well, then you gotta change all the documents.
That's what I'm
20, 30,
saying.
40.
Get your own
At least do a
meter.
surcharge if you're not gonna
Yeah,
require everybody to put one in.
it's a
Then
lot
you
more.
got the liability, if you look at the state law, you got a liability there too.
Yeah.
So
So,
these
you know,
drop cords and stuff,
It's just,
I mean, that car comes with a cord, I wire them up, so I know what it takes.
sure.
But they, the drop cords and the way it's done is way out of code.
Yeah. So, that,
I mean, so
point
we
taken.
can't be out of code in one place and you know it, and other places try to be in code, so.
Okay.
Kind of discriminatory, because only girls drive them.
Yeah. Well, I know. So I'll touch on that one other way. We're talking about one time not allowing utilities in the garage. Because if you're gonna tell people they can't plug in their car, they can't plug in their bicycle, they can't plug in their trickle charger, they can't plug in their motorcycle, and we said, you know what, that's ridiculous.
That
You
is
know,
ridiculous.
it is ridiculous.
That's
So
not
then
out
where
of
do you draw
bounds.
the line at how many amps you can pull before we surcharge you, or how many days can you charge? What if you're down here one day and you plug in for 2 hours, you're a guest, and then you leave? Do we charge that owner for that month? It's too complicated of an issue right now when we don't see any spike in our utilities.
That's probably a plus for our renters, and we just rent, we got a electric free.
Plenty of your renters are plugging in
Rentals, I
outside.
know renters is plugged in.
I know, I mean,
What
so
I'm saying.
I don't complain about the renters plugged in, I mean,
No fee for rentals, I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, guys, if you own an electric vehicle, plugging in to a 110 is not ideal. When you're going somewhere, you go down to a supercharger and you plug in if you're gonna make a trip. Everybody in here with an EV knows that. Plugging in the parking lot.
You stay plugged in there long enough, it can charge it up.
Oh yeah, if you wanna leave it down there for a week.
It takes days. It takes days. They're not pulling.
No, it'll take 4 days to charge
This
the
is
car.
what that plug lets you pull, you set it up for that.
No, it'll pop the breaker if you set it too high.
That's
So,
what I'm saying.
to charge your electric vehicle downstairs will probably take you 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
Right?
They
So
don't.
people aren't plugged down there typically for 4 days at a time without moving their car.
Those trickle chargers use $3 worth of energy a year.
I know. So that's why we decided, you know
That's
what?
a trickle charge.
We'll-
Car charge ain't no trickle charge.
No, but they don't, it takes days to charge them, they can't be drawn much.
Yeah, so instead of beating the dead horse,
That's
what
like
we
saying
decided is
air
we're just gonna
conditioners
watch
are
our utility usage, and if we see any sort of increase in usage of utilities, because, you know, we have an idea of what our average utility bill is here, then we'll make a change. But right now, the cost of implementing the change is more than it's worth. So, any other questions besides,
How is the cost of implementing the change on all of us? It's a personal thing. If you want to get your charger, then you go and you get your charger. It's completely paid for by the customer.
right.
So,
So then, are we cutting off all utilities to the garage? Is that what you're suggesting?
no, if you're plugging in cars, you need to have your little,
But what if you're charging your battery to your car and your car battery's dead?
I wouldn't do that. I
Well,
mean,
people do. So that's what I'm saying is, you can't go out to that and go, what's that outlet plugged in for? Oh, how many electric bikes is he using today? Guys.
don't own one.
So if you wanna run for the board, you're welcome to do it and make the change. It's just not something we've decided we wanna do.
It's not a dictatorship either.
Well, I mean,
Would someone have the option to install a charger if they wanted to?
yeah, and we actually looked at doing it
I mean,
originally.
if, say I've got an electric car and I want my charger,
Mhm.
can I do that?
It would, but you would have to actually dig out underneath the parking lot into the garage from where your meter
It's
is
a
in here.
huge deal.
It's huge.
They're 220, right?
Yeah,
And we don't have enough power to.
Yeah.
and there's no 220 in the
We don't
garage.
have that kind of
That's
service.
my thing too, you don't have enough power here to do it.
I know,
If
so-
everybody got one.
Right.
Honestly, you can't come up with a figure, so it's not gonna be fair to say, yeah, we're gonna charge you $30 a month to charge your car when it's only costing $2. So unless you can come up with a figure,
Right.
that's not fair either. It's
You're
not
right,
fair,
right.
it's not fair for us to pay, but if it's $2 or $3,
It's not $2 or $3.
I don't know.
Oh, it's
And,
not-
and if you have your own meter, then you know.
You do. So ideally, if we
You
rebuild
maybe
this
buy
building,
that bicycle might be $2 a month. if you
But
did that.
apparently we can't we can't have it installed with a meter because
Well, they could pay for their own. He just doesn't want to pay.
you.
I don't know if you've
you
noticed,
can
but the-
pay- I thought he said you can't pay.
Oh,
for
no,
it.
he can pay to have a meter installed.
Oh,
of course I
a
could.
meter.
Of course.
Of course he could. The president, you know, our great president, he's the one with the new window. He's the one that charges his car. He's the one who pays for his
I'm the one
son.
with the dog.
And then one with the dog.
That too.
Just,
There you go.
let's go.
I have it on.
Well,
And
So-
we use the trickle charger.
And I use a trickle charger.
So, it's just,
Yeah.
Figure out what my trickle charger costs, and I'd be glad to reimburse.
wow, you're upstanding individual, because Derek will not reimburse. It's been
Well,
asked.
he offered to reimburse.
No, he has never offered.
I offered to reimburse.
He did offer
It was
to
just more
reimburse.
because
That's
what
not
it does,
fair.
Joe, you ran for the board, I remember when I ran for the board, and you did not get elected.
I know.
You ran for the board next door, you did not get elected.
I got
There's a
told-
reason
What
you are not elected to the
That's
board.
no reason.
Because people
Oh,
don't.
man, come on, that's not necessary.
If you want to attack somebody, then you gotta be able to take it back,
That's fine.
okay? So there are reasons. There were 4 openings on the board. Nobody ran for the board.
Well, you know
So
why nobody
I've
ran
had-
for the board?
Why?
Because if you remember when I ran for the board and 2 other people ran for the board, y'all did this fake recall. Yeah, fake recall that you sat right out here and told me that it was recall, and you knew nothing about it, that Terry Spohr was the one that implemented the whole deal, and that you knew nothing about it.
I didn't say it was a fake recall.
Hey,
No.
Derek,
No, I said it was a fake recall. You said that
Can we
you.
get back focused and get off this bullshit?
No, we have our, this is an owners meeting and we have our right to speak.
Alright.
So,
You
yes.
absolutely have.
Focus.
We should.
The recall was done because you ran for the board. You didn't, you were placed on the board.
Well, okay,
And then-
whatever.
And then you brought 2 people along that it was a coup. It's
Oh, what?
a
I didn't even, the people has lived here before me.
coup.
No, it was, I don't know what you call it, a coup. But it was, y'all, it was a
I've been on the board, I'll never do it.
fake. Yeah, so that's why nobody wants to run on the board, because of the same thing. Greg, the guy that's on this right here, was one of the most outstanding people in this condo.
I know.
Okay, he got thrown under the bus too.
No.
Yeah,
Nobody
well, he-
even knew
he
me.
got-
I had only been here
Greg
6
should run
months.
Greg should get on the board.
We would like Rick to be on the board.
Yeah, nobody even knew me. Had been on this building only 6 months.
People know you.
Oh, nobody knew me. Nobody knew me or what I was capable of doing.
It's the first.
Hey, let's past history, let's move on.
No, we're talking about, we have an owners meeting and we're talking about why nobody wants to run for the board.
That's past history.
Okay, but you can't silence me. I have my 3 minutes to speak and I will speak. If, so, this is a owners meeting. It's not a board meeting.
Understand.
So you're a
This-
board
This
member.
started because Joe attacked Derek personally. Derek is busting his ass, taking care of our money. He's doing a lot of work. It's thankless work.
Joe stated facts.
Telling me he don't mind stealing electricity.
Okay.
We're talking about such trivial
He's
shit.
not paid for it.
That costs next to
Go online
nothing.
and see what the average
He's an
cost.
electrical engineer. He knows what
That costs
electrical
next to
costs.
nothing.
Go online and
He
see
has
what the
education to
cost
prove
is.
it for you, what he knows what it
Average
costs.
car charger.
Do you want Derek to pay to charge his car? Is that what
I
you
will
want?
film, I know, it tells me what kind of person he is.
He's offered to
He
pay,
don't
he has
mind.
repeatedly
I ain't
offered
seen
to
him pay
pay.
nothing, I
You think
understand
he wants to
Kirby
sit and
did.
listen to
I
this?
understand Kirby did, is that correct?
Yes, do you want
Yeah,
to?
and I respect Kirby for that, I want him to know.
We don't
Kirby's
take
like
in any
me.
income.
I don't want Derek paying nothing for me, and I don't want to be paying nothing for him.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Okay.
We got a half a dozen
And I'm
cars in
telling
this
him, I'm
building.
telling him to his face, I ain't talking behind his back, I'm telling him right here what I think.
Are you
about it.
good?
You're right.
okay, this time last year in January, you hired your son, January the 1st through May. Okay, have everybody's look at the pool, the chairs, they're all scattered around. We have nobody now, so what made it important for us to have somebody last January to May and for you to hire your son without the homeowners or the board or anybody knowing? And from what I understand, Sam resigned because he didn't know about the situation of you hiring your son.
Okay, so.
Now, am I
Joe,
correct?
tell your friend why we had to have someone deal with the deck chairs.
I didn't know we needed anybody.
Well, you complained about the deck chairs.
No, I've never complained about the deck chairs.
That's not true.
We complained about the trash.
We ain't need anybody since May, we don't have anybody from here from Friday. to
If we
Monday.
needed them those 6 months, why don't we need them now?
We don't need anybody, but
I wouldn't dare get in that pool on
people
Sunday.
were complaining about
Well, who was people?
it. They won't admit it.
Well, evidently, we didn't need.
You think we just decided to
complaining
get someone to wipe down
we-
the chairs?
We don't need anybody now.
We don't need
We paid
anybody.
$8,000.
You're right, we don't need
And
anybody.
now we don't need anybody.
We don't need anybody. We never did.
Oh,
Robert was doing it.
Robert's
But it
not
didn't
here
suit
from
some
Friday to
people
Monday.
because he wasn't doing it early enough in the day.
He don't do it from Friday to Monday.
We don't do it
During the
anymore.
summer, that's the key point in the time. Saturday and Sunday, you have more.
It's a waste of anybody's time. Wipe off your own
But it's.
deck chair.
All right, so with that all being said, you want to go ahead and vote to adjourn the meeting?
Don't turn.
Okay.
I
That's
second.
second, I third, and that's the board for this year, guys. There's been no one else that's run, so Fred was gentleman enough to stay on, even though he does not enjoy this whatsoever either. Jill, thank God, has agreed to stay on too.
Well, that was when we started, have they still staying on?
And so, anyway, the meeting is adjourned, guys. Have a good afternoon.